Got a mic?
You've got a stop here. You've got a nice seat there. We've got a great view. We've got an extra mic at all. We're just going to share it.
Do you want to share this? We'll share that one now, and then give that a stay.
Thank you. Do you like that? Yeah. Very good. Right, thank you for some of your questions, that's much appreciated. I'll try and do as many of them as I can shortly. Sorry, Matt, I've got my back to you. That's bloody rude, that is. Next to the, I was going to say next to the booth there. But, right, okay. Right back to the 1970s there, folks. Thank you very much.
It's a great start.
Hey! Right. A little bit of blue for the dads. Blue for the dads. So, nice simple question to start with. Why? Why are we here? Why lay this on? Why do the exhibition? Why go to the time and trouble of doing two performances when you could actually just do one and get yourself off home? Why?
Because we're skint. We wanted something to, just finish this sort of cycle off of our lives, really, and to share that with people in Manchester is something that we really wanted to do. So, yeah, being in this band has obviously just taken over our lives, and the making of Columbia was really important to us as people as well. And I think we wouldn't be the people that we are unless we didn't make it in the exact circumstances that we did. So, we thought that it would be something more than a live show. We wanted to strip some of the songs back, so you could maybe hear some of the lyrics a little better, but and then obviously all the artwork that you see on the walls is by a wonderful man called Sam Croston, who has followed the band since we were since day one, really. So it felt right, and we're glad to share you with it. Well, hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, fantastic, very good. I was listening there and I heard the words fuck continuity, and that's quite interesting, isn't it? Because that's where you're at now, isn't it? It's continuity of how to bridge the gap from where you were before, where you are now, to what you're going to next.
Absolutely.
That is not an easy trick to pull off. How are you going to manage it?
Well, that was a phrase that we picked up from Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds film. I believe it's One More Time with Feeling, and Nick Sclavunas. It says to Nick. He says, "What about continuity?" And Nick Cave replies, "Fuck continuity." So that sort of stuck with us, and then we placed it in a lyric. But in terms of consciously, tackling continuity, and we want to do the opposite of that. We want to push the boundaries as far as our minds will allow us to push them, and that's really what this is all about.
And I'll ask you the two lads as well. So, in terms of where you're at now, in vulgar terms, Manchester venue terms, for example, you are, I guess, Ritz, beyond Ritz, maybe Academy 2, edging towards Academy 1. Is that fair enough? Possibly.
Please no.
So that allows you then, in Manchester terms, Apollo and Arena. That's the only two that are left. What do you want?
I think my band have never really set those sort of targets. Everything's kind of just the next step has always been the next step kind of
That's
thing.
a lovely answer, but what do you want?
Continuity.
But you can see that because it is, you are at that funny stage now of I guess much of it is down to you. It's a genuine question. Matt, what do you want? In terms of, if you were to compare it to Manchester venues, where would you like to play? Where would you like to be?
I think we've done a bit like a natural progression in Manchester. It's like Deaf Institute, Gorilla, Academy 2, Ritz. Just want to carry on doing that. Albert Hall, like you say, Apollo, and then maybe one day the Arena.
He said it. He said it. Right. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's drag it because I'm a great believer in that. arc of Manchester venues. So let's take it back to the King's Arms in Salford.
Yeah.
Yes, to March 2016. If you haven't seen I'd be amazed if you haven't looked at it, but there's obviously videos on YouTube of that. Each of you, tell me what you remember about that at the King's.
Tom spat on his girlfriend. He didn't mean to, in his defence.
Who was your girlfriend?
I can't remember her name. You used to live with her in Fairshire.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, the one you spat on. Oh, all right, yeah.
I remember her.
So, a bit of a car crash on a gig, to be fair. It was a bit of a night. That was our
Was that
first.
on guitars, bro?
Yeah, this sort of heavy guitar with possibly on broken and snapped. And yeah, that was our sort of welcome to Manchester, I suppose. It was a bit of a disaster.
But was it a disaster though? Because things happened as a result of that, what you describe as a disaster.
Yeah, it was what I think like Nigel Khan came down from London One, thought it was a sort of seminal moment, kind of thing as he, described it. Must have been a few. But it kind of goes to kind of show, it's it was kind of a disaster for us, but it was the first time obviously playing, and it's the first time obviously people from sort of Manchester had a chance to kind of catch us, and it certainly set us on an upwards direction.
So how important, from a disaster, something was obviously grabbed, but how important was that early kind of like recognition of, look at this, listen to this? How important was that?
Yeah, I think it was more the next show, really, the show at Night and Day, where a lot of people from Doncaster actually kind of got bus over and that kind of thing. And that was the kind of one that really set us, kind of made a bit of a statement, because, it's kind of a full room, etc., etc. And I think it's a little bit like, who's this band from Doncaster, just, filled out that room for the first time, So that was certainly, I think, the first statement, which sort of came on the back of that King's Arms gig.
I think when we had consciously in our minds, actually, cabbage were a big part of the way that we sort of approached the Manchester music scene, and we sort of set a target. We want to be rubbing shoulders with cabbage, and I remember that being a very big part of the first move over to Manchester, and now they'll be supporting us, won't they?
Yeah.
All right, Owen.
But actually, to be fair, I was going to ask you a question about that, and about, because if you can't get away from it. If bands do this, they do pull away from other bands, but I notice, there's folks from Cabbage here, there's folks from No Hot Ashes here, my good friend, because it'd be nice, wouldn't it, if you were all at each other's throats, but rather annoyingly for me as a journalist, it appears that you're not. How, can you not be a bit more kind of, a bit more argy-bargy, man?
We're all best of friends here, David.
But it is nice to see.
Sure.
And is that the case?
Absolutely.
Yeah, some of them. No, I think one of the big things that we've always sort of, tried to get along with the bands, it's always, kind of a big help, to sort of put on that family kind of cliche, but, it is, when you're on tour, so tour these, bands and etc., etc. You make friends for life.
Friends for life, ladies and gentlemen. Now, if you had been, I think, because I'm an older person, as you can possibly see, if you had been around, say, in the 80s or the 90s, probably someone like Steve Lamacq or somebody like that, somebody working on the NME, would have tried to put you into a group, a movement of bands. They would have made up a title for it. Let's think. Murder Ballad Prog. There you go. How about that? You can have that if you want for nothing. Murder Ballad Prog. And they would have bunched you all in together and say, there you go, it's a movement. Now, people don't tend to do that so much anymore. Would you like to be part of a movement?
I think we've always sort of, worked in our own orbit. That's just been something that we've done. And that's with everything, with choosing management companies and choosing record labels and the way that we approach the music industry and the way that we go about being a rock and roll band. It's we're very conscious of trying to just do our own thing. So I don't know how bands feel about things like that today. Do they want a genre label on them? Do they want a movement one? We don't personally, but that's the way we see it, I think.
Now, this was originally scheduled for September, was it not?
Yes.
And it could not happen for medical
I got
reasons?
tonsillitis, yeah, so we had to
It's
cancel
horrible, isn't it?
show in Europe. Yeah, I used to get it a lot, but yeah, it's sort of been kind to me, and then we got it like just before the show, so couldn't have been at a worse time really, but...
Now, slightly different context now, because now we're doing this, and a general election has been called.
Yeah.
That's the slight difference of context. And one of the questions that I went through the audience before, and I gave him my card and asked him, will you text me some questions?
Sure.
Which I thought was quite a neat move, because then I don't have to decipher people's bloody handwriting. And let me find the correct one. Yeah. Carey. Where are you, Carey? Hi.
Hello.
You're just nice and close. I recently read in an interview that your lyrics were unpolitically biased. However, one of the reasons I love your music is for the very left-wing messages your lyrics portray about society today. Can you please elaborate further?
Yeah, I don't know who said that, because we're definitely politically biased. But coming from a town in Doncaster, the town of Doncaster, town in Doncaster, is that right? Yeah, it's where was that? Yeah, you know, we've had, you know, we've seen firsthand what you know, negligent politics can do to places, and what it did, especially to Doncaster. You know, our fathers went through it, and so we're the sort of second generation of that, if you like, and we've got you know, the beauty of retrospect as well, so you can see what happened and why it happened, and it's very difficult to
And others.
Sure, and others, yeah, sorry. But talking as our fathers walked down the pits, you know. And so, yeah, you know, you can't help but look at these times in the exact same sort of light, and, you know, so I think that's what a very big part of why we do what we do.
But a year or 2 years ago even, I mean, that's a different planet to the one that we live on now. You know, if it was harsh a year ago, 18 months ago, 2 years ago, that's nothing compared to the harshness of now. So is that, you know, wanting to be arena on one hand, but obviously wanting continuity of what you're trying to do and what you're trying to say. That's a big ask.
I think one of the points we maybe alluded to in that interview is sometimes you know, the lyrics are sometimes a bit more metaphorical as opposed to being directly political, and so they can sort of, you know, reference the times if you like, but also kind of stand that test of time. You know, it could, you know, there's some sort of ambiguity where it doesn't necessarily have to be a record from 2017 or, you know, 2019, for example. And as sort of Tom alluded, it's always been quite a natural thing anyway. So, you know, what comes with that comes with that. You know, people don't like it. You know, people aren't going to like it, I suppose. But yeah.
Matthew?
Yeah, what they said.
None more drummer. Now, before you came, I asked you, because first time I saw you at the Ritz, and I think for success these days you need to be able to appeal to the young uns and the oldies. So I'm looking at you, and I'm looking at thinking, that's brilliant, that's just like the Cramps. I remember, it's just like the Cramps at the Gallery in 1982. Bloody hell, yeah, nobody else was there, just me. Okay. But I asked you, because a lot of names come up quite regularly, you know, White Stripes, Fall, Birthday Party. So the Birthday Party at the Hacienda in 1982. That kicked off. So I asked you before, you know, could you bring a thought of music that you could tell us about now, one each, that, you know, maybe that's outside of that usual ones that tend to get mentioned.
Sure.
What's yours ones?
I don't know if it's a secret or not, but we're huge fans of the Arctic Monkeys. And one of their albums specifically, the third record, it's a record called Humbug. That really stuck out for me personally. You know, it's just, you put it on again and again, and you hear these channels of sound that you didn't hear before, and I think it's just a massive piece of a record. And Alex Turner's you know, genius of lyricism is something that taught us a lot, you know, and I think we sort of used that album as a blueprint of how to write our songs, and so yeah, that was really important to me.
Upstairs there's a Pie Smith's Horses, and that's quite a big influence on the album, particularly Orbit. I think it was quite conscious on, you know, spoken word was quite a big part of the live set at the time, so we kind of wanted to try and encapsulate that sort of poetry kind of live, you know, spoken word kind of aspect, and that was quite a, you know, a defining record and kind of how to do that, and referencing that, and Birdland especially was a big sort of reference point.
Matt?
Yeah, I agree with what Tom said pretty much. Arctics, early strokes, stuff you wouldn't really expect to hear in the music we actually play, but actually I was a big influence when we first started, especially Arctics and stuff I mentioned. Yeah, that's about it really.
Because there was top notes of Beatles knocking about on some of the new songs there.
Yeah, I mean, the Beatles are the greatest band in the world. There's just no other band that is like them. Bar maybe Pink Floyd. Some of the stuff that they capture on record is incredible. But the Beatles are just one of the most consistently impressive. And I think what it is about the Beatles is, they show you that bands need to progress with each record, and each record needs to be different and interesting. And you can't let the water, get too stale. So,
because some of it felt, I wasn't joking about the proggy thing. It did.
Sure.
It was like sort of like short prog. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I have an issue with prog. But I thought 3-minute prog.
Nothing wrong with prog, man.
That'll do me.
Nothing
3-minute prog. That's
There
quite
you go.
handy.
That's the movement. 3-minute prog.
There you go. Someone write that down because I'll
That's it,
forget.
man.
3-minute prog. Take another one because this is a nicely mixing in this from Lisa. Good question. This. The Columbia concept was so strong part of the identity. How much would you say that's helped or hindered the process for creating the next record? It's a cracking question. Where are you? Hello.
Hello.
Told you'd ask me a good question.
It's two parts to this. So in doing the first record, we basically went in with half of an album written, and we sort of pushed ourselves to do it. And when we got there in the end, there was a lot of internal pressure from ourselves. So the idea of this concept and this creation of this character Johnny Dream, it allowed us to narrate from a character's point of view, and that really helped with the songwriting. It's very difficult when you're 18 years old, you've not really experienced much of life yet. So to write fucking 12 songs about it, and then the dystopia theme comes in, and it's something that we really clung on to. Having said that, going on to the next record, I think it means jack shit really. You start the slate again and approach it with something completely new. So Johnny Dream is well and truly dead.
This is one specifically for you, Matty. Do you need a running repairs man at every gig? Do you need new drums, or do you just break them all?
Yes. I go through a lot of everything, I think. Yeah. Luckily Owen's lent me a snare drum somewhere at the back, because mine's broke. Yeah, every gig, luckily we have Castry at the back. He's my drum tech, and if I didn't have him for every gig, it'd be an absolute nightmare. He's just running around in circles around me every time we play, and putting things back in place, it soon falls back out. So
Maybe a better tax.
I think it's probably the techs that are the problem.
And how does it feel playing